6.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything to do with homesteading whatsoever, homesteading off the grid. So I did the eyeball thing there again because I did it on my last video a couple of days ago, and many of you said you have missed that and you're glad I'm back to it and I'm telling my stories. So there was the eyeball thing again. All right, so we still have an empty backyard bird cage here. That's part of today's story. Going to talk about some odd things going on with backyard chicken flocks. We've got a UFO sighting story with picture proof, 2 pictures. That's coming up. And one of our subscribers has been screaming at me to talk about maids up in Canada for some time, and so I finally looked into it a little bit, and so I'm going to discuss that because it looks like it might be yet another part of the diabolical plan to unalive large numbers of our aged/unfit community to reduce the Earth's surface population, all part of potentially Project 2030, all this stuff going on. You'll have to excuse me. It's not that I'm a bit under the weather. I'm having a tooth problem up here, 2 teeth problem. I actually have to get a procedure done next week, and so yeah, that's why I seem a bit off. But I'm perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, working out every day, eating well on one side of my mouth at least, very soft foods. All right, but I want to point one thing out to you this morning. You know, in the last video I talked about how our basketball team, mine and Coach Heath from Heath's house and Coach Abel, another assistant coach, we won our league's championship. There's one 30 seconds or less beautiful story I want to tell you that I left out the other day just because I wasn't thinking about it. So we had 12 boys on our team. They were 7th and 8th grade middle school boys, young men, because they're very mature, responsible, go-getters. They are young men. We had 12. Well, at the end of the game, they only had 8 trophies and to give out to these boys, and I was the one that was giving them out to the team. And so when the league told me they only had 8, they said, "Don't worry, we'll order some more." I was like, okay. So I turned to the team and I said, "Hey guys," I said, "there's only 8 trophies and there's 12 of you guys. I need 4 of you who are willing to not get your trophy for a couple of weeks because we've got to order more." And everybody on the team except 3 or 4 kids raised their hands. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because these kids, they were like, "Nah, give the other guy the trophy. I can wait for mine." And the 3 that didn't raise their hand, it's because they were talking amongst themselves. And one of them looked at me and said, "Coach, what'd you say?" And I said it again, and then they all raised their hand. So how amazing is that? And that shows why we won the championship. They were so connected as teammates. You know how important it is. You go out, you work hard, you win, you get the trophy. And especially so for a kid, the younger you are, the more important those kinds of things are. They were, every single one of them, willing to give their trophy to some other kid on the team to make sure that kid had it while they just sat back and patiently waited for theirs. Isn't that a testimony to what a great group of kids those kids are? And FYI, I ordered those trophies myself this morning, if any of y'all are watching or parents are watching, because I don't want to wait on the league to get around to doing it because they're so busy. So they will be here in about a week. And the kids, of course, my kid is one that didn't take one. And so I'm here. And then the other 3 kids are children, the parents of whom me and my wife are very close friends, and we go to their houses regularly. So they'll all have them in a week. Now, just wanted to tell that was, there's so much bad news in the world. I wanted to give some good news. But now I want to share with you an email from Dale Brown, and I'm going to share a couple of pictures with you that Dale sent in with his email. And folks, if you have any stories about UFOs, aliens, abductions, paranormal, supernatural, that you'd like to share with us, you can email them to the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. It is in the description box below. Got to give us permission to share your story. If you don't want us to use your name, let us know. We'll keep you anonymous. Dale Brown emails, "Hello, Kevin. Great show and content. You have my permission to use my name and story as you wish. I was visiting my brother in Las Vegas. We both have off-road vehicles and enjoy trail riding in the desert. We had just finished up a trail ride at the Nellis Dunes OHV Park, just northeast of Nellis Air Force Base. We had just pulled out on the road pointing in the direction of Nellis Air Force Base when we heard jets taking off, F-22s to be exact. We both pulled out our phones to take photos in that direction because we love fighter jets. I was driving, so I was paying attention to the road and taking the photo in the direction of the sound without looking, while my brother in the passenger seat did pretty much the same thing. We watched the jets as we drove for a bit and headed southwest into the Vegas area. After getting home and looking through our photos of the day, my brother saw a disc in the photo he took towards the jets and exclaimed, "I think I took a photo of a UFO." When I saw that, I looked at my photo. Now, I'm not sure if I took mine before him or after, but I too had a disc, but mine was blurry, like it was entering or exiting this dimension or something. I say that because in the same photo, there's a jet that's not blurry whatsoever. My object was to the left of the road up in the sky, and his was to the right, so it had to be moving quite fast. I've heard a lot of talk about strange sightings in that area, and now I believe what they have been saying is true. I've added the photos for your consideration. Again, thanks for giving people like us a place to tell our stories. Okay, and here are the two photos that Dale sent me. Now listen, if these come in because of the editing technology I have on my phone, a lot of times they have a tendency to slide one way or the other. If it's moving and you want it to stop, just pause the video, just pause and get a good look and then hit play again, okay? But here are those pictures. All right, isn't that something? They kind of look like orbs, huh? All right, so now I'm going to talk to you about something, about this backyard chicken flock stuff, and then we're going to get on to something that is of great concern to a user, and I'm going to, just to prep you, her user ID here on YouTube is Equestrian Women, okay? But first, let's talk about these backyard chicken flocks. So, our quail birds were unalived, all but one, when this mysterious fog came through a couple of months ago, preceding a major snowstorm. We had like a foot of snow, which is a lot for Central Virginia. And of course, the other quail bird we just freed into our meadow back there before going to Key West for a couple of weeks. She's back there somewhere. And she's got company because we would always have some get away when we clean the cages and stuff. And they're indigenous to the area, so we're hoping So anyway, we were thinking, okay, let's just get chickens. We've got the equipment and we've got another place set up in a different garden area down the property there. Plenty of room, plenty of space. So we go to where we have always gotten local chickens from local farmers in the past, and those folks, for some reason, they're not selling chickens anymore. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I looked on Craigslist. You can't find any, which is rare. Usually you could find a couple dozen sellers. Are always overpriced because we live right outside of Charlottesville and everything's overpriced around Charlottesville. Just because some of the people here are rich, it's assumed that everybody is, and you got to pay a premium to live here. So then I thought, well, I've gotten them from Tractor Supply before, the chicks. I think it's that time of year. So I went on the website, and it said that chicks have arrived to some of the Tractor Supply stores. Make sure to call yours to find out if they're available. So I called our local Tractor Supply store last night on the telephone. I can't remember the last time I called a store on the telephone. It was probably in the 1900s. So anyway, this pleasant young man gets on the phone, and I ask him about the chicks. He says, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. He says, yes, we do have them. We have been getting them. But as somebody who knows about chickens, as somebody who grew up on a farm, my parents have a farm, I would not recommend you buy them. And I said, why? I bought them there before. Bought a flock there 3 years ago. I got 24 little chicks. They all lived into adulthood, and then we just ended up selling that flock when we decided to take a 3-week trip to the Grand Canyon. We love to travel, so having animals doesn't really mix too well with us. Certainly pets. Like, we love dogs, and we have neighbors that have dogs, and they had this one dog in particular that I really like. He's an old dog, and he's very disciplined, and he's not the kind that jumps on you, and he likes to be cuddled and snuggled, and I love it when I go up there and I see him. But it would be very unkind for us to have a dog and then leave it half the year, because I mean, last winter we spent 5 months in Southeast Asia in the Philippines. So, but as far as the chickens go and the quails, we now know enough people around here, and there's a kid my son's age, by the way, who I've coached on other teams before, who we can pay to come take care of this stuff while we're gone. So it gives him a responsibility, a chore, plus a little bit of money, keeps our birds safe. So we said, let's do it, because we know we're going to go somewhere this summer. Wherever we go, we'll have this guy come take care of our birds. So the Tractor Supply guy is telling me, don't come buy him. And I said, what do you think is wrong with him? And he says, I don't know. He says, I've never seen anything like this. He says, it's not necessarily an issue of delivery. It's just that these chicks coming out of our, from our suppliers that we've always gotten them from in years past, or we wouldn't have gotten them this year, there's something wrong with them and they are dying. And he says they're getting here. He says the only way I'd recommend you buying chicks from us this year is that if you're able to get here within 30 minutes of the chicks getting here, because you got to go through and pick out the strong ones, because so many of them are just falling down weak. You don't want those. And if you're, here an hour after they've arrived, that's pretty much all that's left. And he offered to, take down my phone number and call me today, as a matter of fact, whenever their supply came in. He says sometimes they come in at 8, but sometimes they don't come in until 4. So I can't really tell you what time they're coming. But if I had your phone number, I could call you once they arrive, and you could come in and try to pick through and take out the strong ones before everybody else does. And I just instinctively said, well, thank you for one thing. Your courtesy. I mean, that level of customer service is almost unheard of these days. And I said, number 2, thank you for your honesty. Most people would not say that because they know it's going to cost them a sale. But number 3, I think I'll pass, because if something is wrong with that large of a percentage of the chicks that are coming into you, probably over the next couple of days, the others that seem strong at first are going to die anyway. So I got back online, I started Googling some more stuff, and I found this on Reddit. And I think my assumption was right. This is somebody on Reddit said, allow me to explain how Tractor Supply works. Here's my source. My daughter worked there through her college years for 4 years solid. So this guy's daughter, was there for 4 years. So he's qualified to give this advice. He writes, the chicks are shipped by USPS, U.S. Postal Service, from whatever hatchery TSC is buying them from. TSC gets a call from the post office when the chicks are in, and someone from TSC has to go pick them up. Sometimes the United States Postal Service doesn't call them as quickly as they should, and so the chicks are in a box, possibly for a couple of days, with no water, no warmth. Those that arrive alive are already very stressed. So this guy's making it sound like it's the Postal Service's fault. And let me tell you, I used to work for them for 6 months. I delivered mail for them. What I will tell you is it's the most unorganized organization. It's the most incompetent organization I've ever been associated with in my life ever. I remember one time I reached down underneath the seat of a mail truck because I don't know, to get something. I dropped something and I found an envelope and I pulled it out, and it was somebody's tax refund check from like February, and this was like June. I mean, whatever, dude. Okay, and then he goes on about how TSC just writes it off as a loss. Kind of like how Walmart does. They'd rather let their plants die in the garden center than to clearance them out to encourage buyers to take them home. That's terrible. But anyway, but here's the daughter's recommendation at the end of it. She says, wait a few days after the new chicks come in. Then watch the ones in the tub for the strongest of the bunch. Buy those. By then, the weaker, sicker ones will have already died. Don't buy them the day of arrival. So this guy, because of his daughter and his daughter, is giving the opposite advice. The guy that I called and talked to, and he was giving, I think, his best advice he could honestly give. He says come in and get the strong ones when they first arrive. But this person's saying no, give them time. But it sounds like after a couple of days they're all dead. They're just all dying. So my question is, what is going on with the chick hatcheries here around at least America for now, if not the rest of the world. I'm getting folks leaving comments in the comment section from the UK that, excuse me, if you're going to have chickens over there, you have to actually register them with the government now. This is crazy, guys. This is our backyards we're talking about, and chickens. So, and with all that in mind, I lifted a comment off of the channel today from Catherine Champ 9860. If this is you, shout out. She wrote, a girl I work with has been sick since November 2024, and she still has sinus issues. I got sick from being around her, and I was down for 7 days. I am in good health and take very good care of myself. I am located in Ohio, and we have had issues with the hachu here. Now, get this. She continues. A lot of chicken barns have mysteriously caught on fire in this county. It's just very strange, and a lot of people have been sick in this area. We had drones in this area before the fires as well, which I think is strange. So, folks, we may have just been alerted to something else that's going on. Is there some sort of shenanigans going around where they, whoever they are, perhaps the people behind these drones, if it is human people, are they burning down chicken barns so that we can't have backyard chicken flocks? Is that part of the control and the demise? The average cost for a dozen eggs right now in the U.S. is $12. I was reading an article online yesterday about high-protein breakfasts that do not include eggs because eggs are getting so expensive. And it was the common stuff like get a slice of whole wheat toast and smear avocado on it. And I love to eat that, especially after a workout. But my gosh, avocados are up to $6 now due to that runaway inflation we had the previous 4 years going into this one. And then one was, you spread peanut butter over some whole wheat toast and put banana slices on it. I had that yesterday, but I tell you, it's hard to beat just a good old scrambled egg, Just think about that. So we need to get together and do some research and find out if there's other chicken barns burning down and just what's going on behind it. But now, with all this said, I'm going to wrap it up with kind of going all over the board here today. This is from Equestrian Women. See there, I even copied and pasted that one. Comment from Equestrian Women. I'll get that in a minute. The wind's blowing my script away there. She was going on and on about maids in Canada, and she sent me a couple of emails about this. I just get like 100 to 200 emails a day, and I don't always have time to get to them. But I've looked into this maids thing off and on since she started contacting me, and there was somebody else that contacted me about a very high percentage of parents of indigenous people. They were parents of children at a particular school up in Canada. They had like 7 of them chose to take their own lives in like a 3-month period. And there's some really weird stuff going on in Canada that nobody seems to be talking about. But what MAIDS is it's medically assisted death, medically assisted induced death. I guess that's legal in Canada. It's not here. However, as she put in her comment, it's legal in 10 states, and she hopes Trump doesn't allow it to become legal nationwide, because her concern is, she says that there are some old folks that are not too well off it. They just say they don't feel well, then it's pow pow. You're unalived with a syringe or a pill or something like that. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty serious, so let's Google it. So I Googled it, and this is what I found from CBS News. Okay, they wrote, medically assisted dying in Canada, which is legal in that country in some circumstances, reached a record high last year, accounting for 1 in 20 deaths. Could you imagine that? For every 20 people that die in a hospital, one's because they supposedly said they wanted to. Do you think the numbers are really this high? The article continues, according to the data released Wednesday by Health Canada, about 4.7% of Canadians who died in 2023 received MAID, or medical assistance in dying. So almost 5% of the folks who are dying in Canada allegedly are doing it because they ask a doctor to help them do it. 5%? The article continues, Canada is among a few other countries, including Australia, Austria, New Zealand, and Spain, that have assisted dying laws. In the U.S., assisted dying is legal in 10 states and the District of Columbia. Earlier this month, the UK passed a first vote in a bill that would allow assisted dying for the terminally ill. Now, we all remember when we were going through that Jack Kevorkian stuff, right? I was a young college student. I was like 20 years old. At the time, I was, and I'm probably more torn on this now, but I was all for it, euthanasia. I was like, absolutely. If somebody wants to end it, and they're of sound mind, they're not mentally ill, and they're not being coerced by someone else, they should have every right to, especially if they're suffering and they're in a lot of pain. But now we have to ask ourselves this question, and I think this is the concern of User ID Equestrian Women. Who is it that's really making that decision? And if you think, especially in America, where families are just not, family's not a big deal in America like it used to be after the 60s and the 70s. There are a lot of older folks who just really don't have any family or any family that they're connected with. So who's to say that it might not be them making the decision? Maybe like Equestrian Women wrote. Maybe they just tell their doctor they don't feel too well, and the doctor's like, you're one of those needless eaters, wasteful eaters. You're not contributing. You might have before. You might have given the best 30 to 40 years of your life to some corporation to make them wealthy. But hey, guess what? That health insurance that you clung to that job for because you thought you needed it, well, guess what? They're not paying anymore. Oh, you don't feel well? Well, too bad. Here, let me give you something to make it better. Next thing you know, they're unalived. So yeah, I can completely see the concern with that. So folks, I want to thank you for joining me here for another video today. We talked about multiple subjects, multiple topics. Again, if you have anything like weird stories, strange experiences with UFOs, aliens, abductions, paranormal, supernatural, you can email them to the channel. Give us your permission to share them, and we will. We'll keep your name out of it if you wish to remain anonymous. Again, the email address is crazylake@mail.com. We do get hundreds of emails. We don't have time to share all the stories. You can go read those stories, however, in our True Hauntings series, which is available on Amazon in print and Kindle. The link for that is in the description box below as well. Take care of yourselves out there, everybody. Be safe. Keep your heads on a swivel. See you for more next time.